In this video, we will run down the top highest grossing and most successful movies of all time. The top 3 is perhaps not what you might expect. Let's begin. Grossing just over $1.5 billion, 2012's The Avengers kicks off our list, sitting in 10th place, with Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk, and others coming together off the back of their solo films. The Avengers was a giant step into the MCU's cinema dominance that we've seen over the last 10 years. Avengers 2 comes in 14th place, making $1.395 billion, and Infinity War and Endgame may feature higher up in the top 10 list. Number 9 is a live-action remake of The Lion King, with director Jon Favreau, Dave Earl Jones voicing Mufasa, and Donald Glover as the voice of Simba. The Lion King gave us the answer as to why Disney are remaking so many of their classic animated films. That answer being when remakes are done right, the box office potential is massive. The Lion King grossed $1.657 billion at the box office, besting other live-action remakes such as Aladdin and The Jungle Book, and also earning more than the original Lion King, which made just shy of $1 billion when it was released in 1994. Number 8 is Jurassic World, proving that dinosaurs and soft reboots are another way of crossing the $1 billion mark. Jurassic World came out in 2015 and made $1.669 billion at the box office, with Colin Trevorrow as director and Chris Pratt as the lead protagonist Owen Grady. Jurassic World made more than the original Jurassic Park, and also more than the subsequent sequels that followed, Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. Number 7 is Spider-Man No Way Home, making $1.91 billion. After COVID and the subsequent government restrictions that followed, the box office returns for movies that would normally have been successful were greatly diminished. There is in fact no film in the top 100 highest grossing films during the year 2020, when COVID was in full force. Spider-Man No Way Home brought the MCU and their cinema experience to a pre-COVID level, with an amazing box office return, almost netting $2 billion. The marketing for No Way Home was incredible, with rumour and speculation that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield would return and team up with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. The buzz and excitement made No Way Home a must-watch for multiple generations, with younger MCU fans and those who enjoyed Maguire and Garfield's take on the character. Number 6 is another MCU film, Avengers Infinity War. The 19th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Infinity War crossed the $2 billion threshold, grossing $2.048 billion. Coming off the back of the successful Black Panther, which made $1.336 billion, Infinity War was undoubtedly the peak moment in the MCU, with Thanos, who was teased in multiple post-credit scenes, taking on the Marvel superheroes who we had grown to love over the last 10 years. The Russo brothers managed to bring together a huge group of characters, from the Guardians of the Galaxy, to the Avengers, to Ant-Man. Infinity War was a crossover event never done in such scale before, and it managed to live up to and exceed the fans' very high expectations for the movie. Number 5. Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens. 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, and 3 years after Disney bought Lucasfilm, Episode 7 The Force Awakens was released. In December 2015, The Force Awakens grossed $2.064 billion at the box office, and is still to this day the highest grossing domestic box office movie of all time, making $250 million in its first week in the US alone. New characters Kylo Ren, Rey, Finn and Poe joined old favourites Han Solo, Princess Leia and briefly Luke Skywalker. The Force Awakens reunited the cultural phenomenon that was Star Wars. Episode 8 The Last Jedi earned $1.331 billion, and Episode 9 Rise of Skywalker grossed $1.072 billion. The excitement for The Force Awakens was palpable, and those levels were perhaps unmatched in the following sequel trilogy films. Number 4. Titanic. If you asked a casual movie fan what's the highest grossing movie of all time, they would probably say Titanic, grossing $2,222 million. In 1997, James Cameron created the most famous love story to make it to the cinema screen, with the song that propelled Celine Dion's career to legendary status and introduced Leonardo DiCaprio to teenage girls everywhere. a modern interpretation of the star-crossed lovers taking place on the most infamous ship of all time. Titanic is just iconic, and its huge box office and cultural relevance is testament to its longevity as a modern classic. Before we get to our final three, here's our honourable mentions. Top Gun Maverick and Fast and Furious 7 come in at 12th and 11th place respectively, with Top Gun's domestic and international box office both being around the $700 million mark, which is a very rare even split between the US and non-US box office receipts. Like Star Wars, it shows just how strong the domestic performance in the US was for Top Gun Maverick. And 2015's Fast and Furious 7 grossed $1.511 billion, making it $4 million shy of the Avengers in 10th place. And now, the final three. In third place, we have Avatar: The Way of Water. In December 2022, The Way of Water was released, and it had taken James Cameron over a decade to make. Avatar: The Way of Water was an eye-boggling spectacle, with incredible underwater visuals and a family story at its centre. The Way of Water returned audiences to Pandora and a spectacular escapism that Cameron's Avatar franchise offered. The Way of Water grossed $2.319 billion. Number 2. Avengers Endgame, grossing $2,794 million. 2019's Avengers Endgame followed up on the cliffhanger ending from 2018's Infinity War, with the swan song of Robert Downey's Iron Man and Chris Evans' Captain America, concluding the overarching goal of the franchise, which was the Infinity Stones, and ending Thanos. From Captain America lifting Thor's hammer to the portal scene and Iron Man's sacrifice, Endgame was the epic crescendo that concluded Marvel's decade-long golden age of superhero movies. And finally, number 1. The highest grossing movie of all time is Avatar. Yes, that's right. James Cameron has 3 movies in the top 4 highest grossing movies of all time. It's incredible, really. 2009's Avatar was the first major 3D film and probably the best 3D film. Upon release, Avatar felt like a giant leap into the future for cinema, combining cutting-edge sci-fi fantasy with the exploration of a beautiful new world, seen through the eyes of Jake Sully. For many, Avatar was an experience of spectacle and awe-inspiring wonder, which did astonishingly well at the box office, grossing $2.923 billion, a whisker short of $3 billion. Avatar made $785 million domestically and over $2 billion internationally, showing that its archetypal, if not simplistic story was loved the world over. So there you have it, the top highest grossing movies of all time. And in case you were wondering, these numbers are not adjusted for inflation. It is possible to adjust for inflation, but it does bring up many issues. Adjusting for inflation globally for films which could be nearly a century old is rather hard. It also doesn't account for the varying release schedule, which has changed a lot and has become more saturated in recent decades. However, if an inflation-adjusted top 10 list sounds like something you want to see, then let me know in the comments below. For reviews of the best films and TV shows, top 10s, and movie video essays, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you, and see you again.